My name is Jason, and this is Just Watches. So today we have a review of the Steinhart 39 GMT, and this is the blue and red ceramic bezel. As always, if you're enjoying the content of this channel, I invite you to subscribe. And if you like the content of this individual video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. So as always, we'll do specifications, pros, cons, and then if I think this watch is worth the money. So starting with the case, as is in the title, this is a 39mm in case diameter. It's 47.5mm lug to lug. It's only about 12.5mm thick, and then it has a 20mm lug width. Now you have a 5-link bracelet here. It's all brushed, and it has a nice taper from 20mm all the way down to 16mm, and then it jumps back up to 18mm on the clasp. You do have the Steinhart symbol here engraved into the keeper, and that is high polish. The rest of the keeper is all brushed. There's no push deployance. You just pull down here, but you have a nice milled scissor clasp, and then you do have 4 micro positions, which in combination with the size of these links, I think you'll be able to get a good fit. And then the links are screw links, so it's quite easy to size. You just need about a 1 to 1.5mm screwdriver. And then we do have solid end links here on the bracelet. And the bracelet does articulate all the way across the back of the watch. This is extremely comfortable bracelet overall, and I really like that they did all brushed. Sometimes you see the high polish in the middle, but the all brushing of the bracelet just makes it have a more toolish look, and it's a little bit less blingy in this case. Now on the back here, we have this deeply etched, it's kind of cool, it's a trident wielding individual riding a seahorse here. I'm not exactly sure of the significance, if any, or if this is just what Steinhart puts on the back of the watches. It's really cool though, and it's well executed. And then you just have some information around the edge here. Ocean 39, it has a Swiss automatic movement, and it says Swiss made, so obviously they have enough pieces that they're allowed to put that designation on the watch. I don't think, obviously it doesn't have to be 100% Swiss components. There's a minimum amount, and I think they do it by the cost of the component. And since there's a Swiss movement in here, that's probably enough to tip it over the edge, but they do get to say Swiss made by Steinhart here. And then the movement into this is going to be the Sellita SW330 Elaborate grade. There's different grades. This is, I think, the entry level one. It gets higher all the way up to a COSC certification, but this one is just the Elaborate. It's a 28.8 thousand vibrations per hour hacking hand winding movement with a 42-hour power reserve, and then you have that GMT hand and the date. And the crown is really well done. It's signed, and it's really deeply etched. The Steinhart logo is deeply etched into the crown. I really like how they executed it there. And then you see you do have the crown guards, a high polished finish. There's not really any chamfered edge or transition, and the top is all brushed. But the brushing is really consistent throughout the top of the case and into the bracelet. It looks very cohesive there. Now the crystal is a sapphire, a flat sapphire, and it does have that cyclops, and that's probably going to be hate it or love it for most people. It's on there quite straight. The magnification could be a bit stronger, but it does do a decent job of magnifying, and I don't really mind the cyclops here. And the real star of the show is that red and blue ceramic bezel. They did an excellent job with the colors. You know, I saw this watch in pictures and video online, but I just wasn't sure. You never know until you get it in person. And right when I took it out of the box, I was like, oh man, they really nailed the red and the blue. This is so fun to wear just because of this bezel. It's just really well done. It pops. The ceramics well executed. The markers, the indices, the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, etc. for the GMT hand are well done. They're deeply etched and filled with white. Unfortunately, I would like to see them loomed, but only the 12 o'clock pip is loomed. Now, it is a 120 click unidirectional bezel. The action is really good, but it's very tight. And I've heard that's a thing with these Steinhart watches, that you have a tight action. So I do enjoy it, but it's really difficult to turn under the camera here, so I'm actually not going to turn it. But it's very satisfying to use. I hope it kind of loosens and breaks in a little bit over time. It's a little bit more tight than I would prefer, but that's okay. The action is good, and the alignment, as you can see, everything lines up at the 12 o'clock, so I'm happy to see that. Now the dial is a matte black, and then you do have applied indices, and the indices as well as the hands are filled with BGW9 Lume. That's the blue shade of Lume, and I'll show you that in the Lume shot. But everything's really well done. The applied indices are nicely applied, and I like the handset and the GMT hand with that splash of red All of the red kind of matches throughout the watch. You do have a lot of text at the bottom of the watch there. This is a 300-meter water-resistant watch, and then there's some other text there. I would have liked to maybe seen less. And then you have the Steinhart and the Steinhart logo at the 12 o'clock. So overall, a great design. Obviously, this is an homage, so it's the design is obviously borrowed and greatly influenced by another watch. But they did a really good job of executing it overall on the watch itself. So for Lume, we have the notice sector on the left, the Steinhart in the middle, and the reigning champion, the Orient Kamesu, on the right. Now I include the notice because it also has BGW9 Lume. It's just not as good of an application, and you're going to see it fades and kind of falls behind the leader, which is clearly the Kamesu, but the Steinhart does quite a good job of keeping up, and I really like the BGW9 Lume. I just really like that blue hue, so pretty good Lume on this one for sure. And popping it on the Timegrapher, that is what you like to see. That is a very straight line. So it's running basically 1 second, maybe minus one to 0 seconds per day. So, and I can report on the wrist, it's been extremely accurate. So that is the benefit you get when you do have a Swiss movement in there. You know, I'm not a huge stickler on accuracy, but it is nice to see sometimes the difference in the movements when you throw them on the Timegrapher. And there it is on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. You can see 39 millimeters is going to be a great size on a lot of wrist sizes. It is only 47.5 millimeter lug to lug, but the watch itself is very straight. So those lugs do just stick right out. So keep that in mind. Sometimes if the lugs curve, it's a lot of the reason that Seiko watches fit really well despite their larger dimensions. Sometimes it's because they curve, so they kind of follow the natural curve of the wrist. This watch is quite straight, so it is going to stick out, but with only 47.5 millimeter lug to lug, it doesn't really matter on my size wrist. It's just something you want to keep in mind if you're thinking about picking one of these up for yourself, because they do come in a larger size. But I think the lug to lug on those is about 52. So just keep in mind if you need the 39 or if you want to go with the 42 millimeter size. So pros and cons. Well, pros, this watch just drips. It's just dripping with quality. Everything is really well executed. The colors on the ceramic bezel are bright and it's super fun to wear. The bracelet is really comfortable. It has a 4 millimeter taper, which I really like. And the movement, as you saw when I put it on the Timegrapher, it's just rock solid. You really can't complain. You're basically getting, obviously it's not cost certified, but I had it on the wrist for an entire week and it only deviated about 1 second from atomic time over that entire period, which is fantastic. The cons, there's only 2 real cons. I would prefer a bi-directional bezel. Now, obviously, this is a GMT watch, so generally you want the bezel to go both directions, but I think it's just a cost-saving measure. They have a unidirectional bezel on this one. And then also with the bezel, the action is quite stiff, which I hear is true on many Steinharts, and I hope it breaks in over time, but it's a little bit more stiff for my liking. So is this watch worth the money? Now these are a little bit more expensive than what I usually have on the channel. These come in around $600. You can get them on Steinhart, or Nomen Watches also sells them. I think if you are looking for something that's slightly nicer than some of the entry-level Seikos, you really can't go wrong with a Steinhart. It just is a really high quality watch. You can tell from the moment you put it on, and then you can see the results on the Timegrapher. It's extraordinarily accurate. So you're getting an extremely well built watch with a rock solid movement for about $600. I think if you are looking for like a one watch kind of that can do it all in the collection. Well, I guess you wouldn't have a collection if you're a one watch, but this watch really, I kind of feel like I could just abandon a lot of my other watches and just be really happy with this one. So I think these Steinharts are the real deal. I think if you're kind of looking for something that's a little bit nicer, but I mean, for this price point, there's not a lot of competitors at this price point for what you're getting in this watch. So there you have it, the Steinhart 39 GMT, red blue ceramic. Let me know what you guys think about this watch in the comments. And as always, if you're enjoying the content of this channel, I invite you to subscribe. And if you like the contents of this individual video, give it a thumbs up. Until then, I'll see you guys next time.